How much does it cost to charge your EV's fuel for a petrol car? True reflection. One of the most frequent queries as electric cars EVs gain popularity is how much charging an EV actually costs in comparison to filling up a car with gas. Even though buying an EV could seem more expensive at first, the real savings come from decreased long-term fuel and maintenance expenses. The cost comparison isn't always simple because gasoline costs are always changing and power tariffs vary by area. But when it's all said and done, EVs usually win out. This video examines the true costs of charging an electric vehicle versus filling up a gas-powered vehicle, taking into account energy efficiency, upkeep, and government subsidies. This detailed comparison will provide you with a clear picture of the financial advantages of switching to electric vehicles versus continuing to use gasoline, regardless of whether you're considering making the switch or are just inquisitive. 1. Price of petrol versus electricity rates. The price differential between gasoline and electricity is a major consideration when evaluating the costs of charging EVs filling an automobile. Depending on where you live, the local energy prices, and whether you're charging at home or at a public station, the cost of charging an EV might vary greatly. For instance, the average home electricity tariff in the United Areas is approximately $0.14 per co-op, while rates can go as high as $0.20 per co in areas like California. The average cost of charging an EV at home is between $0.04 and $0.06 per mile, with prices ranging from $0.30 to $0.40 per co-op. Public charging stations, fast chargers in particular, are more costly, bringing the total cost to roughly $0.10 per mile. In contrast, the price of gasoline varies according to several factors, such as taxes and the price of crude oil. The average price of gasoline in the United States in 2024 is about $3.80 per gallon. According to fuel efficiency, a normal gasoline-powered vehicle uses between $0.12 and $0.15 per mile. Fast charging can reduce the cost of fueling a car with gasoline, even though charging an EV at home can be less expensive per mile. 2. Upfront expenses. Fueling convenience versus installation. Even while operating an electric vehicle, EV is frequently less expensive than driving a gasoline-powered vehicle. EV owners may incur higher upfront costs, especially when it comes to installing home charging infrastructure. It usually costs $500 to $2,000 to install a Level 2 home charger, which charges far more quickly than a conventional wall outlet. The electrical configuration of your house, labor costs in the area, and any prospective electrical panel modifications all play a role in this. These chargers are necessary for overnight charging and are an upfront cost that owners of gasoline-powered vehicles do not have to pay. On the other hand, aside from conveniently located gas stations, gasoline-powered vehicles don't need any special infrastructure. While charging an EV can take hours, depending on the charger type, refueling a gasoline-powered vehicle only takes a few minutes. While Level 2 home charging can take 4 to 10 hours to fully charge an EV, public fast chargers can top it off in 30 to 45 minutes. But after a home charger is set up, the ease of charging overnight without having to visit a gas station turns into a big benefit. Having to stop frequently for fuel can eventually become inconvenient, even though there are many gas stations and filling up is quick. In this way, home EV charging provides more long-term convenience despite the higher initial setup cost. 3. Efficiency and energy usage. When comparing EVs to petrol cars, efficiency plays a major part in deciding overall costs. Because electric motors transform a far larger percentage of battery energy into motion, electric vehicles are far more efficient than vehicles using internal combustion engines. EVs typically use 85 to 90% of the energy stored in their batteries to power their vehicles, compared to only 20 to 30% of the energy in gasoline-powered vehicles, which lose the remaining energy as heat. An EV normally consumes between 0.3 and 0.4 kilowatt-hours of electricity each mile. To put this into context, one of the most efficient EVs, the Tesla Model 3, uses roughly 0.25 kilowatt-hours per mile. For example, it would cost about $3.50 to drive 100 miles at $0.14 per co-electricity costs. In contrast, a car with a 30-amp fuel economy would need roughly 3.33 gallons of gasoline to cover the same distance. At $3.80 per gallon, that comes out to around $12.66 for the same 100 miles. As a result, EVs often offer large savings in energy expenses per mile, particularly when charged at home, where electricity rates are more inexpensive. However, as indicated previously, these savings can be lessened if you rely primarily on public fast charges, where the cost per quid is substantially greater. 4. Costs of maintenance. Maintenance is a significant factor that influences the cost comparison between EVs and gasoline-powered vehicles. EVs have fewer moving parts than petrol cars, which translates into decreased maintenance requirements over time. EVs don't need oil changes, spark plug replacements, or exhaust system maintenance, which are all normal for petrol vehicles. Additionally, EVs have regenerative braking systems, which prolong the life of brake parts and lower the need for brake maintenance by minimizing wear and strain on them. Petrol-powered vehicles, on the other hand, have more intricate mechanical systems that need more frequent and costly maintenance. Over time, routine engine maintenance, coolant and transmission fluid replacements, and oil changes can mount up. EV owners usually pay 20 to 40% less on maintenance each year than owners of gasoline-powered vehicles, who regularly spend between $800 and $1,500. Although some EV owners worry about battery deterioration, the majority of EV manufacturers have warranties that cover the battery for 100,000 miles or 8 to 10 years. This gives reassurance that an EV's main component will endure for a sizable amount of its life before needing to be replaced. 5. Incentives from the government. The availability of government incentives is one of the main elements that can reduce the cost of owning an EV. To promote the use of electric vehicles, several nations provide financial advantages. Depending on the brand and model, new EV purchases in the U.S. can qualify for federal tax credits of up to $7,500. To further lower the initial cost of purchasing an EV, certain jurisdictions additionally provide further incentives. These subsidies can further reduce the cost of charging an EV, especially when combined with off-peak electricity rate reductions. For instance, several utility companies provide exclusive EV charging rates that are far less expensive than regular energy rates, particularly for overnight charging. The total cost of charging your car may decrease as a result. However, such government incentives do not apply to gasoline-powered automobiles. In order to promote the use of more ecologically friendly modes of transportation, many regions are actually raising their gasoline rates. This tendency may eventually raise the price of gasoline and increase the difference in price between EVs and gasoline-powered cars. 6. Resale value and depreciation. Due mostly to worries about battery life and range anxiety, electric automobiles were previously considered to degrade more quickly than gasoline-powered vehicles. However, depreciation rates between EVs and gasoline-powered vehicles have begun to level out as battery technology has advanced and consumer attitudes about EVs have changed. Similar to many gasoline-powered vehicles, many electric vehicles today maintain between 60 and 70% of their value after 3 years. The Tesla Model 3, for instance, has demonstrated a high resale value, with depreciation rates comparable to those of well-known gasoline-powered cars. Depending on the type and model, gasoline-powered vehicles often lose between 40 and 60% of their value after 3 years. Generally speaking, smaller, more fuel-efficient cars depreciate more quickly than larger, less fuel-efficient ones. The expanding market for electric vehicles and the rising demand for used EVs have made resale values more competitive, despite the fact that EVs used to experience higher depreciation. These days, buyers who want to sell their EVs after a few years are getting returns that are comparable to what they would anticipate from a gasoline-powered car. 7. Long-term financial gains. Despite the greater initial expenditures of buying the car and setting up a home charger, EVs frequently end up being more cost-effective in the long run than gasoline-powered vehicles. Over the course of the vehicle's life, the reduced cost of charging and maintaining an EV, along with possible tax advantages and government subsidies, leads to significant savings. Many EV owners begin to notice savings after 5 to 6 years of ownership, while the precise break-even point varies depending on variables including energy rates, gas costs, and driving habits. The savings can be considerably higher for drivers who mostly charge at home and use off-peak electricity rates. The entire cost of owning an EV can be between $6,000 and $10,000 less than that of a similar gasoline-powered vehicle over a 10-year period. The long-term financial advantages of owning an EV are probably going to rise even more as EV battery prices continue to decline and charging infrastructure grows. Final thoughts. A number of variables, including as maintenance costs, government incentives, and the cost of fueling a car with gasoline versus charging an EV, affect the cost. The long-term savings from lower fuel and maintenance expenses make EVs a more appealing option for many drivers, even though the initial expenditures may be greater, especially when installing a home charger. The economic advantages of driving an EV will only increase as technology develops and the market for EVs expands, Let us know in the comments what you think about how much does it cost to charge your EV's fuel for a petrol car. True reflection, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more captivating content on our YouTube channel.